Full house. Great to see everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name's Lee and this is Doug. We're from Capita. We're going to be talking about, going to try and keep it fairly punchy because it's a bit of a universally large subject matter, right? So 20 minutes to talk about this is kind of difficult. Enabling an authentic workforce, improve productivity and engagement. So we will go into the next slide. This is who we are. So I will work for food and he won't work. He'll work for free because he's the robot, the brain of Britain, the data guy, the chief data scientist, and I'm the human, so within the HR piece. So this is kind of what we do. I suppose we wanted to share who we are because we've come at it from different angles. So I've sort of HRD, sophisticated, gritty industry, sort of heavy commerce background, and Doug's a, like I say, brain of Britain, data. I call him geek, but it's probably pretty rude, right? So yes, so that's us. We come at, I suppose, the problem for HR teams a little bit differently, but try and put an evidence-based ROI, sort of a data-led solutions slant on things. So that's us. So, Doug.
Thank you, Lee, for that. Good afternoon, everybody. We're already in a data era. You already have devices. There's billions of different devices that are available at the moment. There's more than there are in the population. There's lots of different ways in which data is being used. Data itself is a currency in certain parts of the world as well. So the data era is already here. Everybody talks about automation and robots and all of that. Actually, it's already here and with us. And we'll show you a little bit of examples about how some people are already using that and to take some views on that as we go forward. But the relationship between sort of humans and technology is not new, as we know. This has been going on for many different hundreds of years, and this is part of the actual evolution about it. But the relationship between the both is really what we're going to try and cover off in a bit more detail. One of the things I did want to share with you is a guy called, it's actually Warren Bennis. Had a bit of a view just in terms of what the future employee would look like. So he reckons the future of the factory of the future will only have two employees, a man and a dog. The man will be there to feed the dog, and the dog will be there to keep the man from touching the equipment. And I think that sort of encapsulates to a certain degree what the relationship is between the actual two elements, really. But as the AI, if you combine all of the data, the assets, combine that with the AI capability, it's going to actually create and drive certainly human creativity into places we've never seen before. And we wanted to give you a bit of a view in terms of what the dimensions of that actually look like. So we have some stats here on the two slides. I'll just run through a couple of these. 2.5 quintillion bytes of data. That probably doesn't mean a lot to you. It means a lot to me, being a geek. But that's the extent of the amount of data that is exchanged between us all during one day. 133 million by 2022. That is the number of new jobs that will be created as a result of the introduction of AI into the workplace. About 15 million jobs at risk within the UK, based on various different estimates that we have, but also look at the other side of it, that it will also be able to create jobs as well. As we mentioned earlier, the world is home to 7.2 billion gadgets, and they're multiplying 5 times faster than we are as a population. Just think about that.
So for the first time in human history, gadgets outnumber people, basically. And it's just going to get exponentially larger, really, isn't it? So
it is. A few more important stats for you. So 225.3 billion, that's the number of emails are exchanged and sent every single day. 4% is the number of the gig workers of the population of the UK, population of the UK employee overall workforce is 4% for gig. 175,000, that's the number of children that actually access the internet every day for the first time. 50%, just a 50% plus using advanced technical skills by 2030. In the US, that will grow from 50% to probably 69%, and in the UK, it's probably about 45% to about 63% in terms of people using advanced AI skills every single day by then. Again, you can believe these stats or not, it just gives you a view in terms of what is actually available out there. The next one's really interesting. MBA, management by algorithm. There's been some work done by the World Economic Forum, and they reckon that by 2026, there will be an AI machine as part of a board. not as an enabler, not as a tool to be used as part of what we do from an HR perspective, but actually be on that board. And then 743 trillion and 11.84 trillion, that's the amount of value that will be generated by AI every single year across the planet. So it just gives you, we just wanted to give you a little bit of a view in terms of the actual numbers and some of the stats behind those particular relationships. But it's not always about the data.
It's about humans, right? It's about how we interact, really. So sort of, having sat on excos and boards and so forth, asking colleagues and people within the companies, what's their view on AI? Is it fearful? I mean, 133 million jobs created. Most people think of AI and they think, well, am I going to lose my job? I'm insecure. I've lost control. These types of sort of issues, really. So at board level, there's a huge amount of investment. So tech companies, the healthcare companies, life sciences, biomedical, these types of companies are actually investing per project about £54 million per company each year. So it's pretty big, right, in terms of the investment. And from a human versus a mathematical machine, let's say, simple linear algorithms have been proven to outperform human performance. So whether you believe that or not, we'll talk about the intellectual sort of content of human beings a bit later on. So, straw poll. How are you feeling about the future? Show of hands. We'll try and gauge how the room's sort of feeling. So, are you insecure? Do you feel out of control? Do you feel like you're going to lose your job? No? That's interesting, right?
Couple,
yeah. So there must be AI experts in the room then. So, Doug? Yeah,
I think that what's interesting is that there's been a lot of talk and discussion about whether AI in itself is going to change jobs. What we want to share with you today is just a couple of different perspectives from that. The same question's been asked to a number of different executives from a cross-boundary perspective. You'll notice here that you've got definitely will happen and probably will happen. What's really interesting is you've got Japan at 28, you've got US at 15. You may decide that actually because they're already certain industries are already experiencing the benefits, or at least experiencing what AI can do to a business, that may be driving some of the views that's there as well. South Africa at 45, interesting approach from them. We've seen a lot of take-up in terms of sort of AI, in terms of, again, for specific industries in each of the regions. But it's interesting just to get a quick spread across the actual geographical approach.
Yeah.
But Lee, do you want to have a look at the
so
business
in a bit
function?
more detail. So let's break it down per industry and some of the functions within most companies. So if you look at human resources, so from an operations point of view, a car factory, Jaguar's factory, all that is fully automated, right? So typically the operations side of businesses tend to get automated first. Human resources as a function is pretty thin by the looks, doesn't it? It doesn't feel like we're actually adopting technology and machine learning and algorithmic learning very quickly. Does anyone feel differently? Do your companies, do you as a function and sort of leaders of HR teams, do you embrace the AI piece? Are you using it? Or you're buying in technology that actually has AI embedded into it? It's probably what you're doing, I imagine. Right? So I think that's all I really wanted to talk about, because I think we need to get better. It needs to be the other way around, frankly. We need to be the futurists and be able to tell our boards and our leadership how they actually need to incorporate AI into the people aspects of their businesses. So how you do that is a different story, right? So anyway.
The relationship between AI and humans hasn't always been fantastic. You'll have seen that, obviously, in order to be successful, you need to fail a lot of the times. You've got the Amazon ability to look at the recruiting. They screened a lot of the CVs that were coming in, and because a lot of the CVs that we're seeing were particularly male and white males at that, it's started to learn on the basis of that, and obviously it showed massive bias against women in terms of what they've done. Obviously they've pulled that. The other one is Tay. Have you come across those guys? Seen any of those? That's Microsoft's view. They unveiled Tay, which basically they created an AI machine learning model and let it loose in terms of fed it information from Twitter. it became, as you can imagine, not only sort of racist, it became biased. It could every sort of trait that you wouldn't want to have in your employees or indeed in your friends, it exhibited. And not only did it do that, but it also communicated with others. So I think it just shows you it doesn't take too long to do that.
Twitter blew it up in 24 hours, basically.
They did indeed.
If you're going to test an AI machine learning tool, put it on Twitter, right? See if it works.
It's a great test, definitely.
Right.
But I think there's some positives as well in terms of that, just before we go to that slide.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that humans can do that AI that can't and will never be able to do that. And I think that if you look at some of the information or the attempts that's been made to introduce AI into the workplace, for example, just this morning I was reading that Spot, which is in San Francisco, just created a new chatbot to allow employees to engage with it, to just if they have a particular incident at work around harassment and discrimination, the ability to talk to the chatbot in order to create the incident, to be able to log it, is something that's just been launched out there. So there are some good ways in which you can interact with it. The issue with AI and humans is that it's very difficult to actually interpret what the AI is supposed to be doing. It can do lots of different good things, but it also doesn't have the ability to do the three things that are on that front.
It's all about the data, right? The bias created within the Amazon, 5 middle-aged white guys developing a recruitment tool that created bias. It's pretty normal. You'd actually probably think that, right? So it's all about the data. What humans can bring, the three blue boxes really. Ministry common sense to solve problems. We've got feelings, we display emotions, we sense, so, and we have creativity and imagination. So machines don't have that, right? So we're always going to be there. We might be in the background a little bit more, but I think the creation of these tools is only as good as the people actually creating them. Yeah. Right? So.
And I think also on the back of that as well, it's about the data. So the data is driving the AI bots or the AI piece of technology. So it isn't necessarily the technology, it's the data that's also driving that and driving behavior. And talking of behavior, we have a couple of different human elements here.
I'm not going to read all of these, but we're running out of time actually. But number one, AI should support people in work. It should never replace us, and it probably won't, in my view. But it should support us. We need to convince people. Need to develop them. There's a huge gap actually in terms of skills for the future. We're going to be having 5 generations. In 5 years, we're going to be having 5 generations of people in the workplace. And there's a skill shortage. So we have to actually, you guys need to, and girls need to, create the training and the delivery in terms of your own businesses to be able to cater for that future gap, really. So, yeah. So from a point of view, probably most of us have got kids or grandkids or nieces or nephews. I just want to sort of throw this slide in because, if I tell my 8-year-old daughter, what are you going to do with your life? She probably, doesn't know right now, of course, but, if I'm going to guide her and sort of tell her which sort of industry should you go in, it's probably not going to be manufacturing or logistics from the future point of view, and what sort of skills does she need to develop. So for everyone that's got kids or grandkids or so forth, I thought you might be interested in sort of science, technology, communications. The health industry, the bio industry, life sciences are all industries I think that have early adopted but will continue to actually outperform the adoption from AI than the other industries. So, comment, Doug?
I think it will be put into context if we look at go to the next slide there. So if you think about it, Lee's talked about what the future will look like. I'd like to talk about a little bit about what's actually here now. So if you look at the skills, the people that are already working in the organizations that you belong to, what are you going to be able to help them with that's going to be able to not only drive business performance, but also help them with the different changes. Lee was mentioning earlier this sort of 5 by 5 by 5 approach, the triple equation, if you like. So the next 5 years, the 5 different types of family will be available to work. But there's also those individuals who are coming into it will have 5 different careers, not just roles over that time. So we've got to equip and think about, well, actually, what are the key skills that these particular personnel will actually need? We've highlighted a couple here. We've split them down by skill, ability, and knowledge. Top social skills, as you'd expect, the instruction, coordination, monitoring, the management are really fundamental. Those don't seem to change. In terms of the actual cognitive skills, which is quite interesting given some of the AI approaches that have been touted and we've seen earlier. Fluency of ideas, originality, active learning, really, really important in terms of that. Again, the AI bots, whatever, are only good as the data that you're involved with, but human has to be involved in the key decision making. Some of you will work in regulated industries. So even if you may be able to say, well, I want to automate certain parts of my process, I want to actually generate new ideas, I want to be able to look at things slightly differently. In certain regulated environments, you can't do that. You can't have a black box approach to things. It must be what they call a white box, an ability to understand how a decision has been arrived at. These skills will also help with that, but it'll also be linked directly to business performance, and that's the other element we wanted to cover today.
Right, I think we're on time. 2 minutes to go.
Wow.
Right, okay.
A couple of last elements, just some key takeaways and themes really for you. The first one for us is let's try and concentrate on activities, not occupations. AI is a fantastic opportunity. It will help us drive human intelligence and creativity, of that there's no doubt. But think about activities within certain roles, not occupations, because we won't necessarily replace certain jobs. They will change, will be automated, but certain occupations are really important. Second thing, consciousness over control, the ability to actually have a human to actually manage the process, the way in which new technology and data is actually applied to drive business outcomes is really important. We've also included the ethical Tourette's, only because there's a lot of discussion around the ethical use of AI, and it's quite right that that's the case. However, we need to bring that conversation, that debate back to how that's going to actually, again, drive business performance as opposed to what the use of that's going to be. Superhuman resources, everybody in this room has an opportunity to be able to shape the type of dynamic between humans and technology. You've got to put your own signature on it. You can drive that in different ways. You've got the ability to do that. And I'd hope that you would take that opportunity and challenge forward. We may not be replaced ourselves, but we do need to replace our thinking about how AI and the use of technology and data is going to be provided. And lastly, in terms of the AI value, we've got to, you can hear that. See, this is what's the problem with our AI machines generally, right? This is exactly the problem we're dealing with here. So I'm going to take the human approach and say that from an augmented humanity point of view, that's what we're doing. AI should be here to augment and amplify human decision-making, not replace it. And on that note...
That's us. I'm not sure we have time for questions, but are there any questions? Or...
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that